Hello everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Gloria Abebio. We'll be discussing yet another controversial topic today titled Parental Rights versus God's Principles for Raising Up Children. Our viewers at home, you can participate in the conversation by sending us your text on the number that is running on your screen right now. You can also send us your email. You can also visit our Kinshasa super user to send us your contribution. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. We are discussing today parental rights versus God's principles for raising up children. With me on set today, I've got two very knowledgeable gentlemen who know a lot about each side. Now with me, I have Pastor Keith Gonell from Spirit Truth Ministries. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Gloria, for having me on the show today.
Thank you so much. And I also have Advocate Jefferson Shabangu, a practicing attorney. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, gentlemen, let's delve straight into the conversation. Jefferson, what does the Children's Act say about how to raise up children?
The Children's Act...
Children's Act 38 of 2005.
Yes, it basically talks about the vesting of rights to the separate parents. When it comes to the mother, whether is married or not married to the father, she has full parental rights and responsibility. But there's a difference when the father is not married to the mother. And when the father is married to the mother as well. With the issue of the father being married to the mother, he has full parental rights and responsibilities. If he is married to the mother during the period of conception, or during the birth of the child, or any time in between the two. However, with the father who is not married to the mother, he does not have parental rights and responsibilities. He only acquires the rights and responsibilities if he has been living with the mother in a life partnership when the child was conceived or was born, or if regardless they were staying together or not, if he consents to being identified as the father, or he successfully applies in terms of Section 26 of the Children's Act to be recognized as the father, or he pays damages in terms of the customary law. Also, he can acquire the rights and responsibilities if he contributes or in good faith attempts to contribute to the upbringing of the child. And further, he can acquire the rights and responsibilities if he contributes or attempt to contribute towards the maintenance of the child for a reasonable period of time.
All right, that was a lot of information with regards to Children's Act.
Yes,
and how to raise up children with regards to parental rights and responsibilities. Now, Pastor, with all of that said, what does the scripture say about parental responsibilities?
It has a lot to say what parents' responsibilities are. First of all, the biggest responsibility is for the father to love the mother.
Yes.
Or the wife. That is the best way to show a positive influence on your child, is for the father to be married to the wife and to love the wife. That is number one role. And the children will come and they will leave the house, but the marriage will be maintained. So that is the first example. And I think when we do things God's way, it always works best. Now, we live in a society which has different faiths and different cultures and different ways of doing things. But I firmly believe that for a man to love the wife is the starting point of a successful upbringing of a child. Then the Bible says you must raise the child according to Proverbs 22 verse 6 in the ways of the Lord, and when he is older he will not depart from them. And there's been a lot of studies on how your brain is formed. Your brain is changeable, but if you train a brain while it's young, it will normally have those lasting memories and actions for the rest of its life. So there are many instances where a child grows up in a Christian home and then they leave the way of the Christian faith, but they come back later because of the training that they've had when they were a young child. So I think that is vital. And then it also says for fathers not to provoke their children, and I think that is a big problem in our society, is men provoking children and then making children want to fight with the man in the house or fight with the mother. And you know, a child is also a human being. They're also made in the image of God. They're also special. So you can't treat them as subhuman or inferior. You need to get a balance between authority as well as valuing the child.
I have only one issue with what the pastor is saying. Now, if one of the responsibilities of a father is to love the mother, is that necessarily in respect of the child, or is just placing a burden on the father in the event that if there is no longer love between the parents, now the father would feel responsible for the child and then punish himself in return and stay in a marriage where there is no love?
I can see your point, and in society divorce is quite common, but when you become a really born-again Christian, it says the love of God is shed abroad in your heart. So in theory, a husband and wife should be able to love each other, but it doesn't always work out. And Jesus even said, because of the hardness of your heart, I've allowed for divorce. But the main reason why a husband must love a wife is to show a child how to treat a woman, or how a woman should treat a man in a family relationship or in society. It's leading by example. And children learn best by example. And that is the problem of single parenting families. And often in a divorce, it's the children who blame themselves, thinking that they were the cause of the divorce. And it scars children emotionally. It does damage their psyche and things like that. Now, obviously, we don't live in a perfect society. And these things will happen. But I still believe that God is able to heal the wounds of brokenhearted. And it's not just children in marriage, it's people in society that get hurt. So ideally, it would be wonderful if we had every husband married to every wife and children growing up in a stable, supportive family. And I know that doesn't happen. I even know that there are men that will step in to single-parent families and act as the father figure, which I think is vital. Children growing up just with the mother or just with the father, they don't, and it can happen because of death, it can happen because of illness, it can happen because of a number of reasons. So it's not just only divorce, but they don't grow up with those examples which they need.
Now, with regards to everything that has been said, this question is actually for the both of you. What are some of the parental responsibilities from both sides?
In terms of the Children's Act, the parents have the right and responsibility to care for the child, to maintain the child, to maintain contact with the child, and to act as guardians of the child.
All right. I think the main role of a parent is to grow the child in the fear of and the love of God. I think that is the main thing. You might even have a poor family with not many material things, but the main thing is to grow them up for a love for God and a fear for God. I think that is the first priority of what a parent should do. Also then, being a parent myself, I know how much I sacrifice to give my children the best. And I'm not sure if that is a common thing in our society.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of men that run away from their responsibilities, which is very unfortunate, because with being a parent, there is a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of sacrifice, but there's also a lot of reward. And I think most parents who are running away from their parental responsibilities don't realize that. And research has shown that married couples are happier. They tend to have more sex. They tend to be financially better off than single-headed families. And the main benefit is really the children. Now I get your argument before that. If people are unhappily married, then the children are also the ones that suffer. I think realistically you should try and get as much help as possible. Go for family counseling. Go for marriage counseling as much as possible.
Yeah.
I really think divorce should be the last resort, but in a case of abuse and things like that, I would really advocate for divorce.
It seems to me that the parental responsibilities from both sides are almost the same. Nevertheless, after this short break, we will discuss further. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for a great deal for your business? Get 2 Huawei P8 Lite 2017s for only $999 per month on one 24-month MTN made-to-share S contract. You get 55 gigs anytime data and 1,300 all-net minutes to share with up to 6 users every month. Plus, get free in-group calling and messaging for everyone on your MTN made-to-share group. We got you. Sign up or upgrade at an MTN store today. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back to the show. We are discussing today parental rights versus God's principles for raising our children. Pastor, enlighten us more on Proverbs 22 verse 6.
It really firmly places the responsibility on the parent to train up a child. So it's an active duty that a parent has to take up. He can't sit back and wait for maybe the government to do it, or the church to do it, or some kind of NGO or something else. It's an active role that parents should be taking up, and I think it's a huge problem in our country at the moment is parents failing to take up the responsibility of parenting children. It's a massive problem that I see. Parents have almost got an attitude of, well, as long as I give them food and clothes and send them to school,
yes,
that's where my responsibility
that's all
ends.
that matters.
And really, the Bible actually doesn't even mention any of those things. It mentions, number one, training up a child in the ways of the Lord.
Yeah, that's what the Bible says.
Another point maybe I want to raise up is might not be according to the Child Act, but when does a child remain a child? In our country, I think it's when a child turns 18, or if they get married by the age of 16, then they become an adult. But the law has taken some of our parental rights away. For instance, now if a child falls pregnant before the age of 18, the child also has the right now to decide whether to terminate the pregnancy or not, which was not common before. And in fact, I don't think it should be a child's right, because the parent is still in responsibility, although the law says otherwise. And then the other thing is the law allows children from as young as an age of 13 to sleep with someone within a year or two of their age group, and not to see it as statutory rape. And I really feel that is taking away some of the parents' rights and responsibilities that they have in training and grooming the children. What would you
Jefferson, you have something to say?
My issue with what you're saying is we as parents shouldn't treat the issue of rights and responsibilities as the child is owning the child. The child is a human being self. So whenever we exercise our rights and responsibility, we need to take into account the interest of the child. Now, if the child doesn't terminate the pregnancy, if doesn't decide that I need to terminate the pregnancy, all of that emotional troubles that the child goes through, it won't be dealt with by the parent. The parent won't take over that emotional problem that the child would have, and having to take care of the child. The parent can say, no, you can't terminate the pregnancy, keep the child. And at a later stage, that parent has to go to work and say, no, take care of your child. I cannot, today I have an appointment that I need to attend to. I cannot take care of your child. It's your child, you need to take care of your child. Now, that child has more responsibilities that they were not ready for. I think they need to be given that right to decide if they are ready to raise a child, or they'll just save it for later on.
Now, I believe that one of the main problems in society these days is that children have been given so much freedom, to an extent where, you know, they can do whatever they want at a very young age, and at the end of the day, when whatever they did brings out the consequences, then it now becomes society's problem. It now becomes the parents' problem. And the reason for that is, I think, you know, not everybody matures at the same age. People mature differently. Now, if you are saying that at the age of 18, a child can sleep with someone, you will find that this child has maybe the mentality of a 13-year-old. This person goes and sleeps with somebody, the person falls pregnant. How can a 13-year-old raise up another child? You see, I believe that is one of the biggest problems that society has today, that children has been given too much freedom.
I totally agree with you, Gloria. And also, what they've been told is they've been told all their rights, but they haven't been told
responsibilities. Yes.
And parents' ability to teach children responsibility has been diminished because of the law and because of society. In a way, it might have been an overreaction to abuse previously, where parents, as you said, maybe treated children as possessions. And not as human beings. But I really feel that today's child, they know how to their rights, and they know how to escape responsibility. So there are a lot of actions that they do.
They know their rights, but they escape their responsibilities.
They never learn how to take responsibility.
The responsibility becomes that of the parents and the government.
Yes, the government it's now the government's responsibility to pay for the child that I had.
Yes.
It's the government's responsibility to look after me.
Unfortunately, that's what some...
The government's responsibility to pay for education and everything else. So nothing is now their responsibility.
Yes.
And I think it's a huge problem in society. And one of the main goals of any parent, teacher, or educator is to try and teach a child how to be responsible. You know,
imagine a scenario where someone is 18 years old, they want to have fun, so they go and they sleep around. After they do that, now the government must look after the product. Where is the responsibility in that?
Yes. Let's look at the issue of escaping responsibility. It's not a child thing. Everyone escapes responsibility. There are fathers that leave their children. That's escaping responsibility. Now we must be careful not to discriminate against children for the sake of being children. There are children out there that are responsible. There are children that are not responsible. The fact that there are some children that are not responsible doesn't mean that we must just take their rights and then put them on the mercy of a parent. There are bad parents out there who would exercise the rights that they have in respect of the child and abuse that right, or not act in the best interest of the child. So what the Children's Act does is to protect the rights of the children. Section 9 of the said Act, it says the rights of the children are of the paramount importance.
Now, you know, when it comes to this issue of children escaping responsibilities, I made a phrase earlier about an 18-year-old sleeping around to have fun. It might not be that the person is having fun. It's not always like that. There are circumstances where maybe the person was forced in doing certain things. But then at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is there are some responsibilities that are too much for a child to bear. But then, you know, because of society and because of the law says that at this certain age, you are free to do whatever or this certain thing. But what they don't realize is, like I stated before, that we don't all have the same mentality. We don't all grow up the same way. If, let's say, for example, I'm 18 and you are 22, I might end up being more mature than you. You understand? But society now expects that because he is 22, he's supposed to, you get my point. So it's not really about whether the child knows about their responsibility or not. The truth of the matter is, when you are a human being, you know yourself. You understand? You know your abilities. And you know that if you do A, B, C, and D, there will be repercussions. The question is, will you be able to take that repercussions and make it your responsibility? That is what society should be asking themselves.
Yes, that's one of the things is with the law, when the legislatures are making this legislations, they do keep in mind instances where children would escape responsibilities. They put precautions that actually punishes the child. That's why even with issues of criminal law, there is an act that's actually enacted to control offenses that involve children, your Children's Justice Act. So
yes.
The law doesn't just give them rights and not put a sanction in the event that they do something wrong. There are sanctions that actually try and keep them in order.
Now, what I want to know now is, what rights do parents have in disciplining their children, and to what extent can a parent discipline their children? Because these days you have children who, if a parent lay hands on them, they will tell the parents, I'll call the police, I'll call 911. You see?
Yes. The right that a parent has, you talk to your child. You have a conversation with your child, or you can, when you say you've done something that's extreme, you take their privileges away from them. They are kids, you know, they like all of these privileges and all. The issue of spanking them or hitting a child, it's a serious problem. It has serious consequences.
Is spanking a child considered an abuse?
Yes.
To be called 10-114?
Yeah, it's actually assault. If you're wrong, if you do something.
Let me get this straight. It is called assault.
Yes. Assault
at what age? So from which age to what age can the parent discipline their child, if that is called assault?
You can't hit any child. You hit the child, it's regarded as abusing the child, which is worse than hitting an adult. If you hit an adult, your matter can be tried in the district court. But if you hit the child, your matter will have to be tried in the regional court. In the district court, the magistrate has jurisdiction to sentence up to 3 years. But with the magistrate, with the regional court, the sentence is even more than 3 years.
So
you can get up to 15 years.
It has gotten to a point where a parent cannot spank a child for being naughty.
Yes, it has.
They cannot.
Yes.
This is very serious.
Now, I almost disagree with that. Although spanking is only one option of disciplining, and I still firmly believe in spanking. A lot of popular Christian parenting experts like James Dobson, John Roseburn say there's a place and a reason for it. And in fact, spanking, if you want to put it that way, is actually an act of love, because the Bible says if you love your child, you will discipline them. Now, I know part of the problem is the abuse that happens from maybe people who are not doing it out of love, but out of anger or frustration. They actually are assaulting the child. And I think it's very difficult for the government to determine what is actually motivated by love and motivated by anger or hatred.
Do you know?
I understand their problem, but I don't think they should be taking. Then you are now infringing on our religious rights. Or
do you know that for some people, for some children, the only way for them to be disciplined is by spanking? The only way for some children to be afraid of their parents is if their parents take that route. But now, if the government is saying that it's called assault, imagine the parent hitting a child is called assault. This is something else.
But now the issue is, why should a child be afraid of their parents?
It's not being afraid per se. It's more of respect.
If what our law actually says is it's a child, you know, the mind hasn't developed to a point where they appreciate the consequences of their acts, because you know, so they're not aware that they're being wrong. So now, if you spank someone who wasn't aware that they're being wrong, is that necessarily a good thing?
But I do believe a child does know that they're wrong. And there's also a place for it when you need to discipline a child because they're putting their own lives in harm, like maybe touching a heater or something like that. It's better to maybe to smack the child properly on the hand than to allow the child to burn themselves on a heater or on a fire. So I disagree with you. I do believe children know right and wrong from quite a young age. What I would say is spanking should be as a last resort, because there are a lot of other discipline measures that can be used.
Can you tell us more about those measures with regards to scriptures?
Just to respond to the child actually trying to put their hand on a hot object, you wouldn't be prosecuted for doing that, because you're actually saving the child. But now is the difference as if the child you know, spilled sugar and then you spank the child, then now it becomes a different thing. The same way as if someone tried to hit you. Hitting someone is it's wrong, but it can be justified because you are protecting yourself or someone that's closer to you.
All right. Now, with all of that said, what are your final words?
I think that the law is there to protect people, and that's what the main aim should be. Not everyone is a Christian, and there are some people that abuse children. But on a whole, I don't think our Christian rights should be taken away for lovingly disciplining a child, or lovingly trying to protect them from things like sex outside of marriage or drugs and things like that. I think children do need discipline, and I think that children do need parenting. I think maybe our biggest problem in this country is that parents don't know how to parent.
Advocate, your final words.
One thing I'd like to tell the viewers is to be very cautious of the a lot of things that parents are doing wrong, especially in the event that the parents are fighting. Usually one parent that has primary residence of the child would deprive the other party of access to the child, and the other party would decide not to pay maintenance because they are being denied access to the child. You cannot avoid those rights. Whether you have access or not, you must pay your maintenance. And the other party as well cannot, because they are no longer together, deprive of the other party of their rights in respect of the child.
All right, maintenance is something a lot of people don't want to hear about. Other people, for them, it works for them. But I would like to thank both of you, Pastor Keith and Advocate Jefferson, for joining me on site. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you so much. Now, God's word is true and it's final, and it always has the final say in your life. The Bible says that train up a child in the way they should go, so that when they are old, they will not depart from it. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Goodbye and God bless. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Jefferson.